Hello and welcome to another episode with our team GJWB. We have another ambassador that is joining us to discuss more about what she does, who she is, and about, actually she's from the UK and is living there right now. So she is going to explain a little bit what's going on in that part of the world with boxing, with herself, what she's doing. She is an adaptive boxing coach who has started Kronik Warrriors, and I will get her to discuss a little bit more because I don't want to say anything wrong or mess it up. So I'll wait for Louise to join us. We'll bring her in. We'll ask her. I have some questions. We had some questions that came in a bit earlier about her and about what she does. And then, of course, if anyone has any questions as we go through this, ask in the comments and we'll make sure to get to it right away. So we're very excited to have her on, another person joining us to chat more about boxing because it's something that we enjoy talking about, but also as well something that we don't experience on a daily basis is what's happening outside of Ontario and then outside of Canada. So we're really excited to have her. I know she's had a busy day today. She had something going on this morning, which I hope she can share with us. I don't think it's... we'll have to wait and see what she says. So I've just requested her to join us. Oh, here she is. Hello.
With jazz hands. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I've
been looking forward to catching up with you.
It's so nice to have you on, and I appreciate you taking the time, given the fact that you've had a very busy morning / day.
Yeah, but it's been super fun. So I've literally been back about 20 minutes. But today I've been working with the Commonwealth Games community engagement team.
Okay, amazing.
So as you know, we're hosting the Commonwealth Games here in Birmingham this year. And I believe it is in 72 days time. Okay. So whatever date that falls out, that's when it happens. Yeah, so there's a community engagement team with the Commonwealth Games, and the idea is to encourage more new people into grassroots sports. So I've been there representing boxing and adaptive boxing. So yeah.
Amazing. I was just saying before you came on, I was like, I'm not sure if you're allowed to share what you were doing, because I know sometimes there's some things that are, secret or it hasn't been revealed yet. So I'm glad that you were able to share that. So thank you. I guess to kind of get started and right into it, on your side, we have some people that know who you are, what you do. On our side, we've shared your story briefly in bits and pieces, but if you would like to, I guess, introduce who you are, what you do, and kind of your backstory into getting into boxing would be awesome.
Okay, so I'll try and make a really long story short. So I haven't always been an adaptive athlete and coach. I was what we would call able-bodied up until around 7 years ago. Prior to that, I was a police officer. I'd done 10 years service. I was living the dream, thinking I was going to climb the lofty heights of the forces and all that sort of stuff. But I needed to have a surgery on my hip for something that had been going on for a long time, really. So it was kind of a go in 2 weeks and you'll be back on the beat kind of thing. But unfortunately, it failed, and it left me with nerve damage down my right leg. And with that happening, I found out I'd got a condition that affects the discs in the spine and the nerves that run into my legs as well. So we had to find a plan B. So I was medically retired from the police. And this is where I always say boxing saved my life, because I kind of went from living that dream to feeling like I had no purpose, no future, and almost no place in society. It was so new to me and it happened so quickly. And so I felt sorry for myself, really sorry for myself for about a year. And it was then when I had to make a choice. Do I stay feeling like this for the rest of my life, or do I make some changes and do something about it? And that's what I did. And I went to the gym and I got a personal trainer in Lloyd, and a very good friend in him now. And we were doing some rehab work, and I just looked at the punch bag in the corner of the room, and I just said, oh, I would have loved to have done that, and now I haven't got the chance. And he just looked back and said, why don't you do it in your chair? And I genuinely couldn't think of a reason why not. And that's where it started, really.
Awesome. No, I love that, you had this, because you had never really thought about boxing before. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I'd loved watching boxing. I'd loosely followed it, but football was the sport that I really, really loved. And I'd always been active, but yeah, it was a brand new kettle of fish.
And then, so take us back to, if you can remember, that first day with the bag.
Oh, yeah, literally. I'll never forget it. So obviously put on the gloves, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I've got it on camera. I'll send you it because it is hilarious, but it also shows progression, and it shows that no matter how bad you are at something when you start, you can kind of do it okay after a few years-ish. But yeah, it was the first time I felt strong after my surgery, and I was like, I can boss this bag. I'm sending it where I want it to go. I might not be doing the technique right, but it's going in places, and it's making noises, and it's, doing all these things. And it was the first time that I'd got really out of breath as well for the first time. So I'd done this rehab stuff, but it was just kind of like physio more than anything. Mm-hmm. And this was cardio, but it was working the muscles, it was working the mind. I was having to think about things, and it distracted me from everything that had consumed me for a year. It literally did. And I remember taking off the gloves that had come from a communal bag of gloves and seeing somebody else's skin under my nails and been like, okay, if I'm going to do this sport, I need my own gloves. But I was hooked, excuse the pun, and I got my first set of gloves that night, and yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. Out of curiosity, do you remember if anyone was around you, if anyone was looking at you, if what was the reaction to that? Because I imagine as well too, that was 6 years ago?
About 5 years ago, so 6 years of surgery, yeah, so 5. Yeah, I'd been used to eyes being on me in the gym because I was doing things differently to other people. Mm-hmm. But with the other stuff, I kind of felt like I knew what I was doing, so it didn't bother me. So I suppose afterwards, I remember feeling anxious about what people thought they might have seen. But at the time doing it, I didn't. And that was what mattered. Whereas when I was doing my physio, I was conscious of it at the time. Does that make sense?
And the reason why I ask is because, especially more so in the virtual side of things, I feel like in person, and it still happens, but as females, we're a little bit more self-conscious about what everyone's thinking. And I've always said, I'm like, there is so much focus and attention on what you're doing. I was like, I can guarantee you the only person that's looking at you is the coach. I said, because everyone is in their zone, that like they're listening for the coach, they're listening for the bell, and that's about it. They're not looking over. The only time they might look over, because this has happened, is if they didn't hear what the coach asked and they're like, wait, what did they ask? And they look at someone else, oh, they're doing a 1-2, okay. And then they're like, but that would be like the only time they would ever look over, because at that point they're in the zone, they're doing their own thing, and then the bell goes off and then they'll look at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually had a similar conversation with some new boxers this week about shadow boxing, and saying everybody, when they first start out shadow boxing, the first thing they say is, oh, I'm going to look so silly. And I'm like, right, okay. So this is something I've learned about boxing that I've not found in any other sport that I've done, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, so this is my experience. If you are trying it doesn't matter whether you are the best boxer in the gym or you have just walked in or rolled in, right? People respect you for trying. If you're stood in the corner, hands on crossed or putting your lip gloss on, they're the people that get stared at for what are they actually doing here? Do they not want to box? You know, It doesn't matter how good you are, as long as you're trying. And people will always help a trier, you know?
Shadow boxing is, we have the same thing. It's awkward to start. I always say, I'm like, it's going to be weird. It's going to feel strange. You're not going to think you're doing it right. And that is okay. Because I said, like anything else, you keep practicing and you'll get better at it. It feels weird. You don't know what to do. Throw the jab, move your feet, do that again. And do that until that you're like, okay, now I can add something else. Slowly add and build. But yeah, shadow boxing, I know, can always be a hard one to just, and then as well too, you're also just like staring at them and they're just like, so sometimes I'll like look away because I'm like, just so that they feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm like, or I'll do it as well too. And that way you're not, I'm not just watching you, because I know even though I'm doing it for their benefit, I also understand it might not be as comfortable. So I agree with all of that. So then take us from first day, loved it, bought your gloves, to then you can either like do a shorter version or a longer version. I have the day to say from when you went from doing it yourself as a boxer to then coaching. Like how did that change over?
So it's been a whirlwind. Like it really, really has. So let me just say that. So quite quickly after starting doing this little bit of boxing, I was looking for somewhere to go and box and do this. And I quickly found that the adaptive boxing isn't a regulated sport. Oh, my mum's just joined. Hi. So straight away I could see it wasn't a regulated sport. So the first job was to try and find a gym that I could access that wasn't upstairs. And I was, again, super lucky. And I met with a guy called Dan Bohr, again, another amazing friend at Townend Boxing Academy. And I'd phoned so many gyms and they all said, no, sorry, we can't help. No, sorry, we can't help. And I phoned Dan, and Dan said, oh my gosh, I'm able-bodied, but I've always wanted to do this. And I've not known how to get into doing it. And I'm like, right, let's start. So we started working together and quite quickly realized that it wasn't as simple as taking traditional boxing and sitting it down, which is what a lot of people had sort of tried to do. So if you look on YouTube, a lot of adaptive boxing is two wheelchairs tied together and punching each other in the head. That is not adaptive boxing. That is not what we promote. You wouldn't tie the lead foot of both boxers together, standing and go, right, 3 minutes, away you go, or 2 minutes, away you go. You wouldn't do it. So straight away we could see that there was angles and there was wheels that moved, and every time you hit something it moves away, and then you've got to push yourself back, but you've got to get out of the way using your hands and all of this stuff, and that hadn't really been kind of considered, really, almost. So we started to just chip away. And during that time I was scouted by the World Boxing Council. Yes. And they were setting up a recreational wheelchair boxing program called Safer Adaptive Boxing, and they asked if I would like to support them in launching their version of the sport, this recreational version of the sport. And I was like, okay. And so we worked again together, Dan, WBC, together to start to put a few things in place. Heads out to Mexico to the 57th annual convention with the WBC, and there we did. We launched their recreational program, and I boxed my debut.
Oh, Nice. That's awesome. That
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah, so it was just a little exhibition round at the opening ceremony. So this is the first time I've boxed outside of my gym. There were 2,000 delegates, including the head of boxing for 166 countries and over 90 world champions.
So you decided, instead of just doing like a small little club thing with like some family and some friends, I'm going to travel and showcase my abilities in front of all these people. Love it.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't quite know that that was what was going to happen until I got there. But hey, do you know what? The deep end is the best way sometimes. And it was amazing. And I love this memory because when we finished, we got a standing ovation. So there was 2,000 people stood up applauding us. And the only two people sitting down were me and the guy I'd just boxed, because we're in wheelchairs, and we just looked at each other and went, well, this is apt. And it was just the most humorous part of the day. It was, and it stopped me from, again, feeling that anxiety of going, oh, I've just boxed in front of 2,000 people, and I could stay there and answer the questions from the president and be composed, and humour got us through. But anyway, I knew that you didn't know that, and I really wanted to tell you that.
That's why it's fun to do these, because we know, from everyone we talk to, we have a general idea of their story, what they've done, but there's little stories and moments that we haven't heard yet. So this is awesome.
And I worked alongside WBC and WBC Cares for about 9 months after that. But what I could I boxed twice more for them as well. But what I could kind of see was that there was a little bit more of a professional side to it. And for me, it was more about grassroots boxing and working with amateur clubs. So I took the really difficult decision to kind of find my own way and start at the beginning, because like you just pointed out, I'd just been whipped up and off I was going and doing all this stuff. And I felt like I needed to learn my trade, and I needed to earn my place in the sport. And I felt that was the best way to do it. So I put my aromatherapy business on the back burner for a little while, and I volunteered 30 hours a week in a mainstream boxing gym. And that's how I learnt my trade and passed my level 1 England boxing course. And then lockdown happened literally a couple of months after. And again, we have adversity. And then, but I say, okay, we've been here before when stuff doesn't go right, but you can always have a plan. And these are the skills that boxing had given me. So in the UK, we locked down on the 23rd of March, 2020. And 7 days later, I put on my first online adaptive boxing class. And I said, right, I'll do 10 weeks free classes, and then we'll all be back to normal.
Right.
And yeah. And there was literally the 3 boxers, the wheelchair boxers that I'd got from the gym in Barnsley. And so there was me and these 3. And then all of a sudden, we started getting a little bit of traffic on Facebook and a little bit more interest. And over that 10 weeks, a community started to be built. And this was when I really started to think, there is a need for this. There absolutely is a need for this. And there is a fight to be had. And so we continued those free classes, and we're still doing them now. And organically, that became Kronik Warrior Adaptive Boxing. So we set up as a non-profit organisation here in England, affiliated with England Boxing, and we are now the first England Boxing affiliated adaptive boxing academy in the country.
Very, very, very exciting note. And it's also evolved too, because you've gone from online to now in studio, and you still do online, like you still do both.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So the beating heart of everything we do is the online classes, because fitness needs to be accessible, right? So aside from boxing, fitness needs to be accessible. And as a person who uses crutches in a wheelchair, I know it isn't. No matter how hard we try, we're just not right there yet. So, and as you pointed out, often if you're doing things differently, people tend to kind of look at you, not in a necessarily a bad way, but you do feel the eyes are on you. So working out from your front room can often be a safe space. And that's what Kronik Warrior UK try to provide, is a safe space for people with additional needs, whether they be neurodiverse or physical, to be able to explore boxing and to get the same end goal, but do it in a way that suits them. So the online classes are the beating heart of the community and will always remain. And then we've got 2 gym hubs, one in Rotherham in South Yorkshire and one in Manchester, which is amazing. The one in Manchester is the home of European champion Jamie Moore and many world champions who have been created there. Most importantly for me, Chantel Cameron, who's defending her world titles next week.
Next week, yes.
Yeah. So check out that, guys. Seriously, because it is going to be, and it's going to be another belt back to Manny. I have no doubt. I sidetracked there, sorry, had to tell you that bit. But yeah, and we've had amazing support from the boxers and coaches in Rotherham. So from Terry Harper and Jason Cunningham, Steffi Bull, to the guys at VIP with Steve Wood and Carl Frampton, Jamie Moore. Yeah, they've been brilliant. And without the support of those guys, we really wouldn't have the first academy. We really wouldn't be starting to develop this sport and be listened to and be taken seriously. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And so I guess one question that I didn't know this before, meeting you and learning a bit more about this sport and the adaptive side of things, but there's wheelchair boxing and then there's adaptive boxing. And
so
I guess in terms of, can you describe adaptive boxing for anyone that doesn't know what that means?
Okay, yeah. So adaptive boxing is an umbrella term for any boxing that you are doing slightly differently. So whether you are, if you could be a standing boxer, but an upper limb amputee.
Mm-hmm.
So you adapting boxing is that you will move your feet and you will box off one hand primarily, and if you've got as part of an arm at the top, you may use that for defense, or not at all, and that would be the adaptation. Same way, if it's a single leg amputee, might stand up and box on a bag and things. There isn't a facility at the moment with prosthetics to turn in the correct way, rotate in the correct way to make that contact boxing. And then wheelchair boxing. So all of that is adaptive. But yeah, if you see a wheelchair, it's generally called wheelchair boxing.
Yeah, just because that's what I was always, or always heard, and more so not with boxing, but with tennis, because I used to work at a tennis club, and that was something that was kind of at the time more newly introduced, and so I've seen it in other sports, but yeah, we haven't seen it yet in boxing. So it's nice to see that, boxing has done so many people, and when you said it saved your life, like the amount of times I've heard that saying is more than just like, it's okay, or like, I enjoy doing it. Most people will start off by saying that because they found it when either at a good time in their life and it was just propelled them, or it was a bad time and it really got them out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that kind of brings me on to a new project that we're going to be launching pretty soon. So boxing for mental health is super, super important. Boxing teaches you so much about your mind and body. And if you go back to that shadow boxing conversation, for me, shadow boxing is like meditative. I can just forget the world, and it's mindful, and yeah, everything just seems to synchronize. So we know that there's benefits from boxing for mental health. So we're going to be launching some free classes called Brain Box, and it is box fit for mental health. So it will be a combination of boxing and fitness, adaptive, so fully inclusive, as always. And it is just solely going to be around mental health. And with that, we're going to be providing support and signposting to mental health and suicide prevention charities and organisations in the local area and internationally for the online teams as well. And on the 16th and 17th of July, we are going to be doing a 24-hour sponsored adaptive box-a-thon for Brain Box. And why are we doing all of this? It's going to be in the memory of one of our boxers' fathers who sadly took his own life last year. And so this is for Andy El Paso Parker, who loved boxing. And I have the pleasure and privilege of training his daughter. Nice. So she's one of our members. And I know Abby was online earlier and knew that I was going to be speaking about this today. So all of the awareness, all of the funds, everything is going to go towards these Brain Box classes. So there's going to be one online every week, one in Manchester every week, one in Rotherham every week. And they are going to be sustainable, long-term, free classes for people to come to our safe spaces and Brain Box.
That's awesome. I love that. I like the concept of it. I would fully agree with it, that it does so much for your mental health. And I also think as well, too, it's kind of one thing that we've always said, and that's kind of our hashtag, is protect the pretty. And first and foremost, everyone thinks that, yes, that is, protect the face, keep your hands up, but it also is protect your mind, your body, your soul. It has a little bit more of a deeper meaning to it as well. And that's something that we are advocating for as well, too, because we do understand that, especially for the young girls, not to say it now, but with Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff, there's a lot of harmful ways that social media can bully outside of just the in-person, which I know we've all experienced growing up. And so boxing we like to use as a way to empower them to be strong enough, both physically and then as well mentally, to be like, I don't need to hear that. I know I'm better than that, or I know what they're saying is nothing, and I'm just going to kind of listen to it and then ignore it. And so it's one of those things. I mean, I've said this before. It's for the younger generation. It's also for the older generation, because let's be real. It's still at my age, it's still hard to hear that stuff sometimes as well, too. So it's a good reminder for all of us. And then, are you doing the box-a-thon in studio? Or
so we're going to be doing it at the VIP gym at Manchester.
Nice.
And we're going to organise for some online sessions that are going to be live from the gym for our international members to get involved, and anybody else who fancies supporting us as well. So we're going to do it as an Instagram live, and basically there will be like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So no matter where you are in the world, you will be able to join at least one of those online sessions. And we might do some little pop-up kind of boxing challenges online throughout the day as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys can
we'll join for sure. I'm not sure what time frame will work for us. It'll probably be like early in the morning for you, because then it will be probably like mid-morning to late afternoon for us, and that would be more ideal. I don't know if I really want to be boxing at like midnight, but
Well, you can send me your energy while I'm trying to like prop my eyes open at that point.
I can do that. And are you the only coach?
So I'm the only coach, but we have mentors, and that's part of the mentor program that we have as well. So I'm mentoring. I've got a maximum of 10 places, and I'm currently mentoring 5 people.
Okay.
And the idea is that we mentor up to 10 people, and we will pay for their level 1 boxing qualification, but they will do it standing and seated, or seated if that's the primary way of doing sport. Mm. So even if you're neurodiverse but box standing up, you will have a full understanding of all forms of adaptive boxing, so that you are a fully inclusive coach. So at the end of the mentoring program, we will have 10 fully inclusive England boxing coaches.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, because I was going to even say, like, for me, it would be great to take that course, because I would imagine that there's a lot of things, and I'm sure, you know, as you kind of said with Dan, like starting it, if he tried to do that on his own, he would have run into a lot of things as you did it. And I'm sure both of you together even did as well, because it's almost like you have to think 20 steps ahead, and it can be difficult to do that. So you kind of have to go like, let's go first 10, see how that goes, add more, see how that goes, before you can really just fully dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what we've been doing today with the young people that have been coming through with the Commonwealth Games event today, is that first kind of baby steps with inclusion. And the amazing thing about inclusive sport is that there is never going to be a one size fits all. Every single person will do things slightly differently. Mm-hmm. And so it keeps your mind fresh. It keeps you having to be creative to figure out new ideas and things. But you say, like, you know, about the challenges that we may have run into. When I did my England boxing level 1 course, I was actually made to sit in my wheelchair on a black mat for 2 days, because they feared that I might damage the floor with my wheels.
Okay.
And so that was my first experience of going onto a course.
Which is not great.
Which is not great. And the amazing thing is, England boxing have come so far from that point. And they know I tell this story because it matters. It matters to me. It matters to them, because it shows how far we've come since then.
Yeah.
But I knew at that moment that I didn't want anyone else to ever have to feel like that. And it wasn't discrimination. It was a lack of understanding, and it was panic. Yeah. From that, you know, from the coaches. And I don't want coaches to feel like that either. So this isn't just about new coaches coming through and stepping into this inclusive world of boxing. It's about making existing amateur clubs more inclusive where they would like to be. Yeah. So I now support England boxing with their disability pathway, and hopefully prevent these things from, like I say, happening in the future, and working together with all of the fonts of knowledge of boxing that they are, with people with lived in experience as being adaptive athletes and coaches, and together creating the best program moving forward for everybody to be involved with.
That's awesome. So one thing I'm going to transition into, just because I feel like we're kind of talking about it, especially with the Commonwealth Games. Correct me if I'm wrong. I actually don't know this. So I'm not going to pretend like I do. They don't have a para segment. I don't know what the best word is. They don't have that. It's just the Olympics that has the Paralympics. Is that correct? Okay. So one of the questions that was asked was, and this can be for the Commonwealth, this could be for the Olympics, do you see a future with boxing in either of those areas, or adaptive boxing? Like, do you see that? Obviously not, you know, Paris 2024, but let's say the next one.
Yes, so absolutely. There will be a transition into competitive adaptive boxing. Speaking of which, that is funny timing. So Dylan has just come online, and I truly believe he will be my first champion.
All right.
He's been with me for 3 years. From the age of 12, a young boy who came in to the gym, turning 16 in a couple of months, turning into a fantastic young man and an incredibly skilled boxer, and has dedicated his life to this. And I truly believe he will be my first champion.
What's his full name, so we can all remember it now, so that in the future we can be like, oh yeah, that was him.
That's Dylan Zerka. Okay. Dylan, you are my retirement boy. Remember this. We've had words. No, honestly, and I'm super excited for Dylan as well, because he's going to be he's going to be coming in and helping with our juniors classes moving forward as well. In 2 weeks' time he starts. So he's
in your age group,
under 13s.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, so we take them from 4 and up to 13. So yeah, so Dylan's going to be helping out with the juniors and stuff. But yeah, so no, there is going to be that pathway into competitive sport, but it isn't easy. It's very complicated.
Nothing is.
Yeah, so with parasport, you have medical classifications, all right? So if we take that alone, in swimming, for example, you could be S1 to S10, okay? And they're different types of disability. 1 being the least impaired, 10 being the most impaired, and then you go into your B1s, which is your sight impairments. So that's just within swimming, okay? Then you've got male, then you've got female. Add in all of the weight classes we've got in boxing to those medical classifications. To try and find matchups is going to be very, very difficult. And I think that is what's prevented it from happening before now. But because para means to be alongside, by the way, it doesn't mean disabled. And because adaptive sport needs to be alongside mainstream sport, all sports will have to find themselves going through this transitional period into competitive parasport. So that's why I can quite happily say I know it will happen. England Boxing, fully supportive of it, but understand again that it's going to take time. So, you know, the people that are involved in this sport now are the pioneers, and that's super exciting. And you can find, and this is what we've been doing today at the event, because it's been about careers. You could find yourself working within adaptive sport, developing this as a competitive sport in the not too distant future. So if you're watching this and you've got a creative mind and you're starting to hear some of the things we're talking about and saying, actually, I could work out a matchmaking system that would help. I could make a classification system, or I worked with para judo or wheelchair rugby, and I could help. We want to hear from you, because we want the best of the best, so that we can be guided by the right people and we can all go with what we know best and feed that in as a multi-organizational kind of approach.
I can understand that would be very tricky to match. However, I would imagine that they would start like they did with females, where it's, you know, 3 weight categories. And then that way, and I know that obviously, you know, it's a very small pool to work with and all that, but I feel like that would probably be the best way for them to get started, just because if they opened it up to all the weight categories and everything, it would just explode, and it would be a lot of work. I'm not saying that it's not worth it, but it would be a lot of work, and it's kind of one of those things that they'll also probably learn things as they go as well. So kind of like start small and then build out from there.
Absolutely, and that's unfortunately the case with the development of the sport, aside from the competitive bit, because we have to start with the least impaired of the adaptive community. Which is why, you know, when we're talking about prosthetics earlier, we can't just be saying, yeah, you can box on prosthetic legs, because like the mechanics aren't made to rotate in the same way yet. So by us saying, oh, everybody can do this, we'd be giving out false hope. We'd be giving out false information. And so we've got to manage expectations throughout this process all the way, and be patient. And so I ask for patience for the people that want to get involved as well, that if we can't offer something straight away, please don't hate us for it. It's because we want to make this safe. The most important thing is that this is safe, you know. We see that in traditional boxing, amateur and pro, week in, week out. Unfortunately, people are getting injured or sometimes fatally. And there's a lot of work to be done, isn't there, around contact sports, rugby, all of the science and the technology should never stop. It needs to constantly be developed, constantly be looked at, constantly be reassessed, and do the same for our side of the sport as well.
So we have a couple questions that came through that I want to ask. Do you know how many countries that use adaptive boxing?
I think there are up to about 30 that I know of. There are quite a lot of countries that do, just in slightly different ways. We all do things slightly differently at the moment.
And then I guess, if they wanted to start their own adaptive boxing program, is there, like, in addition to getting your level 1 coaching, is there a adaptive boxing coaching course? And are you going to start one? Maybe?
So that's where we work with England Boxing to develop that pathway. So England Boxing are working with an organisation at the moment called Activity Alliance, and they're developing a disability awareness kind of bolt-on course that, as long as you've got the prerequisite of a level 1 minimum, you can do that bolt-on course with Activity Alliance, England Boxing combined. I'm not sure how far down the line that is, but it's something that I can say that is happening, and I will be the first to let you know when it's available. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, as far as I know, and I've not done any investigation, I don't think there's anything in Canada that offers that.
So no, there isn't a specific course right now, but my counterpart in Canada is Leo Samarelli, who he's a para skier, I think, for your national team. But prior to his injury, he was a traditional boxer, so took the transition into adaptive boxing, and he's got a club in Canada. So I will get in touch with him and find out if he offers any awareness courses or he knows of any that are available.
Because that would also be really interesting for us, like in terms of, there actually might be something with a national coaches organization that we have here with our NCCP and getting those levels and our additional courses. I have not looked yet. I know they've done some accessibility courses, but I'm not sure if it's specific to one sport, or if it's more of a general course, right? Which is usually what you would find.
Yeah, and that's what we've kind of got here. So I'm part of Great Britain Disability Boxing, and they kindly put me on 3 courses: a disability awareness, an autism awareness, and a mental health awareness course. And we fully recommend at GB Disability Boxing that any kind of coaches really try and find those kind of courses to add on, because they're perfect ways of not just increasing your skills and knowledge around disability or autism or mental health, but you'll find that they're transferable skills in day-to-day life anyway. You might find you're more understanding of a family member or a friend that has an additional need. So coach or not, I fully recommend going on those kind of courses. A lot of them are offered for free. So Disability Sports Wales put some free courses on last year, and I was able to take part in those.
Amazing, amazing. So one last question that I have, and then I'll see if there's anyone that has any additional questions to kind of what we started with. I'm going to kind of go back a little bit. So police officer to coach, would you say transferable skills? Would you say easy transition? Would you say complete opposite?
So different, but so similar, if that makes any sense at all. So yes, massively transferable skills. Part of being a good coach is not just to be able to deliver information, it's to be able to listen. And being a good police officer is about listening. And so that would be the first skill that I would say that took me over. And being quick-witted. And you have to be in a boxing gym. The banter's always flowing, and I think you find, you kind of come out with an answer for most things when you've plodded the beat for a few years. And I think there's that mental toughness. Mental toughness, understanding, compassion. They're all attributes of what make a good police officer, and I hope that I didn't do too bad at that job. It was my passion, and I try to empathize and try and understand as much as I can somebody else's circumstances. I'm never going to pretend that I fully get it, but I'm going to do my absolute best to listen and to try and understand.
And then one kind of flowing question into that, because I don't think there's any other questions that are coming through, and then I'll let you remind us again of all the things you're doing, because there's a lot of things that are going on. In terms of being a female police officer, was that something that you had any pushback on? And then now being a female coach in another male-dominated industry, but then again, you've also created a niche in terms of that. So I wonder if you still get pushback.
A really good question, actually. Honestly, no.
That's great. I'm happy. I'm actually happy to hear that. So that's okay.
Yeah, a lot of people I hear, certainly not in my experience, and the women that I served with, we didn't experience that. You're a family, you've got to have each other's back, and the relationship with your sergeant, with your superiors, with your shift is the same as that boxing family mentality. You've got each other's back. So in the police, male, female didn't make a difference. In boxing, initially, yes.
Okay.
Initially, yes. When I was starting out, yes. But as the sport has gained more traction, more publicity, obviously we featured in the ITV documentary Driving Force with Katie Taylor. And working with some of the champs, I think, has kind of given us a bit of a platform to say, we all, as my partner's 4-year-old son said the other day, we all bleed red. Doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, able-bodied or not, we're all the same. And I'm really starting to see that a little bit more. We're not there fully, but we're getting there.
That's okay. That's good. I mean, it's something that I think is I think if it happens initially and then it fades, it's better than it still being there. And I think that in general, the sport is seeing more women. I know the Worlds are taking place in Turkey right now for the women. And I know we have a team from Canada there, and one of our female coaches, what she said was, she's like, it's great to see all these female athletes. Now I want to see more female coaches, because there was, there wasn't, and again, I don't know how many, there's over 300 athletes, which is incredible. But what she was saying is that now she wants to see more coaches, which I think is true in everywhere, right? Whether it's the amateur or the professional world. It's something that we're working towards. We're getting there, and we'll get there just in time. And then we have a question that kind of came through, which I think was similar to kind of my question, talking about police officing. What would you tell your younger self, or your younger police woman with the knowledge you have now, or someone, if you wanted to mentor them, I guess, what kind of advice and things would you tell them?
This sounds really cheesy, because there's been a program on recently and they said this line, but it's actually a true piece of policing advice that was given to me, and it set me in good stead. Accept nothing, believe nothing, challenge everything. A, B, C. And that is what I do with a lot of things now. Certainly when it comes to this sport, when I say challenge, believe nothing, I mean try it out before you accept that information. So if a coach says wheelchair boxing is the same as traditional boxing, don't believe it. Sit down in a wheelchair and have a go. Challenge it. Find out. Don't just take somebody's opinion on a boxer on Instagram for gospel. Don't just take Joe Blogg's coaching that this is how you throw a hook. Challenge it. Find out how many different hooks there are. You know? And what's the best way for your body to throw that hook? So yeah, they would be what I would say.
That's great. No, I think it's good information. I also think as well, too, everyone's previous experience and current experience brings them to what they would say, what they would do, and it's hard to say, you know, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you would have done something different, and here you are now saying that after everything you've been through. We have another question. Do you get paid? Is there money earned being a coach? I'm not sure about you because you are a not-for-profit, but I would say in general, yes.
Okay, so England Boxing,
okay,
I don't know if you know this, we are volunteers. Amateur boxing in this country is run by volunteers.
That I didn't know.
We do it for the passion. So when you go into an England boxing gym, chances are that coach isn't being paid. Privately, yes. So your one-to-ones and things like that, private events like the Commonwealth Games, things like that, yes, there is. But as you've quite rightly pointed out, Kronik Warrior UK is a non-profit organisation. So any funds that come in go straight back out, whether that be in equipment, free classes, supporting young people, supporting old people, it doesn't matter who. So you know, we identified somebody only recently who could do with some footwear. So the directors sit round and say, right, okay, do we have the funds to support this person with some boxing boots? Yes, cool, right. This is what we're going to do. If somebody comes to a workshop and says, okay, we want, you know, I would love to, I can do the free classes, but I can't afford to do the workshop because they're paid. We will look at saying, right, okay, if you achieve this, this and this, we will support you, and then we can do this, and then we'll go on to do that. So it's about channeling the funds that do come in and taking it back out to the community. But yeah, there is money to be made, but that's not why I do this.
No, it's, yeah, I understand that. It's also one of those things where you'll stay late or do extra things because, not because you know you're getting paid or you're going to get additional. It's, yeah, you like the sport, you want to help the people, you know that it's going to benefit them just as much as it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So remind us again a few things you have coming on. So Brain Box. Is that what it's called?
Brain Box. Box Fit for Mental. The dates are to be confirmed, but it will probably be in June. So they're going to be the free classes for mental health in Manchester, online, and in Rotherham. 16th and 17th of July is the sponsored adaptive box-a-thon in memory of Andy El Paso Parker, which is what the Brain Box classes are about, and it's about Box Fit for mental health. More importantly, also, I keep forgetting to tell you this, and I don't think you know this. We are 95% female members. Oh. And I should have told you this right at the beginning. I totally forgot. Now that is unheard of in boxing.
That is.
But our mentors are 50-50.
Okay.
So it's not just about having women to turn up and go, oh yeah, it's a woman, so I'm going to come and box. No. Our mentors are male and female, but we are run by...
Now that I think about it, I joined one of your classes. Oh, I don't remember now when it was.
Yes.
There were two males. There were two males.
Yes.
I couldn't even tell you their names, but yeah, there were two males, and the rest were female. So we definitely dominated. We definitely dominated in that class. I remember.
Which then brings me on to our Women Box Period campaign. So, okay. I really, really, really want to talk about this. So yeah, must do. So Women Box Period. I don't know what it's like in Canada, and I would be interested to know. So please tell me after this. I find when going into a lot of boxing gyms, whilst we're much more accepting, we've had that conversation, you might go to the toilet and there are no provisions for women. There are no feminine hygiene products, or sometimes even a female toilet. Don't get me started on the disabled toilet, because that is another whole kettle of fish that I don't want to think about today, because that's a battle for another day. But anyway, so there's often no female feminine hygiene products in the toilets. So from Kronik Warrior UK, we provide all of our gym hubs, or any events that we do with feminine products in the changing rooms. But we've decided to take that one step further and provide those products for all 226 amateur boxing clubs in the North West and Yorkshire regions in England. The email's going out to all of the clubs this week. So if you haven't heard about it and you're thinking, oh, I'm an England Boxing Club and I've not heard about this, the email's going out from England Boxing this week. All you need to do is fill out the online form, super, super quick, and we will send you your care packages. You don't even need sanitary bins. We've even got bags and all sorts of things for you. So we've got it covered. But what we want from this is not just to be able to provide women these products, but for the male boxers and coaches not to get freaked out by seeing them or being asked for them. So it's about encouraging the conversation as well. So our male mentors give out the care packages when they come into the gym, and each boxer, female boxer, gets I've put it over there. I can't reach. A cute little black bag with a little key ring on it, and it's got all your bits and bobs inside, and then all of the toilets have got extra provisions in as well. So women box period. If you want to donate, if you're a business, local business, or a far business who want to donate towards providing those products, please let me know. We have a postal address, and you can add to my leaning tower of Tampax, and we'll get them out to all the clubs.
That's awesome. We definitely don't have any of that here. I would say most boxing gyms here have a version of a female toilet, as in there's a door that's closed and it's a co-ed bathroom. So there's privacy. I would say a lot of them do have male and female because they have more of a change room with the toilet inside and the shower and all that. There are some clubs though that do just have more of a communal bathroom, and that there's a door so you have privacy while you're doing whatever you're doing. I would say, I'm even trying to think of not even just boxing gyms, but gyms in Toronto in general, I don't think usually have any sort of sanitary products unless it's a higher end club. Other than that, very rare that we would see that here. So it is really nice. I think in general, just having that conversation about it, because I even know as, an amateur fighter myself, being like, well, it's that time of month while you're training, can be awkward or weird. So I think obviously the products are fantastic, but I think even just having that conversation and having the other coaches, the other athletes aware, is the education alone, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And is that not inclusion? Inclusivity is not just about disability. It's about including everybody in everything, isn't it? To the best of our ability. And, aside from the awkward conversations, period poverty can also be a barrier for women accessing sport anyway. And again, being a woman shouldn't be a reason not to be able to go and enjoy sport for a week. It's crazy. And so, super, super passionate about that. And so women box, period.
I remember when we saw it at least a few weeks ago, maybe if not months ago, I remember seeing that. Like, that's fantastic. It's a nice, it's a great way to create that awareness and then also create that more inclusive environment for the women, for the girls and the women, right? Because as well too, as a younger female, it's also even, I would say, more jarring because it's so new.
Yeah, absolutely. You said about a couple of questions. Darbatina was saying that actually in Denmark, they don't get paid either. They're volunteers as amateur coaches. Yeah. So that's really interesting. So it'd be interesting to speak to some of our other ambassadors in different areas and find out what the norm is in different countries for that. Because I assume that nobody got paid, and you guys, I'm assuming, thought we kind of got, so I think that's a really interesting conversation, and I wonder if it changes on gender. So that might be a little case study we could do.
That would be, because I don't know it'd be interesting to see all the different countries, all the different athletes, and whether it's male or female, as to whether or not that changes anything. The sporting world is very interesting in that way. So again, I want to say thank you so much for your time and sharing all of these stories, and then all of your great initiatives that are coming out.
Thank you.
We want to support you as much as we can, so we'll definitely be there. Keep us posted. We'd love to share, especially that event that's coming up on July the 14th, 15th?
16th, but I'll be around on the 14th and 15th practicing my shadow boxing.
Yeah, just getting ready. And then in the meantime, you have your amazing online courses, you have your classes, as well as your in studio, which is nice to see booming, right? Because it's nice to to see these people in person as well too.
Oh, absolutely. And I was super lucky. We get people traveling from all over the country to the gym sessions, and they shouldn't have to. So if you've been watching this or you watch it later and you think, oh, I would love to become inclusive as a club, doesn't matter if you're not in the UK, we will support you and try and
figure
help
out a
you
way
towards
to make it work, because it'd be interesting
Yeah.
to know, again, to get that coursing and to get that understanding, because there really is a difference in the sense that, especially as an able body, to understand what it is like to make it as inclusive as you can for them, so for the students. So
Yeah, absolutely.
lots of education for sure, lots of education. So again, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing about all these upcoming things that you have. Hopefully there will be more going on with the Commonwealth Games in that 72-day mark or whatever.
Well,
Can't believe that it's already this year, but we look forward to seeing you there, hearing more about it, and otherwise we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for supporting us and everything that you do at Girls Just Want a Box. And guys, don't forget, protect the pretty.
You got it. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and for anyone else joining, enjoy the rest of your day, morning, whatever time zone you're in, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.